Hello and welcome to Moments in History. I'm Linda Shenton-Matchett, author, speaker, and history geek. While researching my stories, I unearthed tons of intriguing historical information that does not end up in my books. So I've created this channel to share those tidbits with you. I really appreciate you stopping by. Leslie Howard, perhaps best known for his role as Ashley Wilkes in Gone with the Wind, had already completed more than 30 films before then and was a huge box office draw. He had also authored stories and articles for the New York Times, The New Yorker, and Vanity Fair. He was born Leslie Howard Steiner on April 3, 1893 in London, to a British mother and Hungarian Jewish father. His mother also had some Jewish heritage. During World War I, as many others had done, the family anglicized their last name to Stainer. However, it remained Steiner on all official documents. Leslie was working as a bank clerk and had completed one silent movie when World War II began, and he enlisted in September 1914. Inducted as a private, he was sent to the British Army's Inns of Court Officer Training Corps, and in February 1915 was commissioned as a subaltern with the 31st Northamptonshire Yeomanry, where he received further training until May of 1916. Sources vary. Some indicate he resigned his commission, while others say he was medically discharged. Shortly thereafter, he went back to filmmaking and appeared in the 1917 movie The Happy Warrior. 2 years later, his career began in earnest, and in 1920 he officially changed his surname to Howard. He starred in 6 films before heading to Hollywood, where he headlined with Douglas Fairbanks in Outward Bound. After England declared war on Germany in 1939, Leslie bought out his contract and returned to Britain, where he offered himself for the war effort. Working with the Ministry of Information, he made propaganda films. He also directed and starred in 2 films of his own that are said to have upset Joseph Goebbels, Minister of Propaganda for the Nazis. Pimpernel Smith was about freeing Jewish refugees from the Nazis, and the first of the few is about the designer of the Spitfire aircraft. In an effort to bring America into the war on Britain's side, Leslie also broadcast letters on the radio. By all reports, he traveled regularly to promote the British cause. In May 1943, he flew to neutral Portugal, where he made several stops throughout the country. On June 1st, he boarded a KLM Royal Dutch Airline flight for home with 16 other passengers. The route did not pass through what would have been considered the war zone. However, the plane came under attack by 8 Junkers and went down approximately 500 miles from Bordeaux, France, and 200 miles northwest of La Corona, Spain. The following day, a search was conducted, but neither the aircraft nor any survivors were found. Mystery and intrigue surround the incident. Leslie was rumored to be part of the British or Allied intelligence, instigating theories that that was the reason for the attack. A widely held but unsupported theory suggests that the Germans thought Winston Churchill was on the flight because Leslie's agent, Alfred Chenels, was on board and strongly resembled the Prime Minister. Leslie's son Ronald was convinced that Joseph Goebbels initiated the order to shoot down the plane because of his father's propaganda work. And yet another theory claims that Leslie was on a top-secret mission to meet with the Spanish dictator Francisco Franco to talk him out of joining the Axis powers. However, one source quotes a German POW who was supposedly the pilot who shot down Leslie's plane, saying he knew nothing of the passengers' identities and, quote-unquote, whatever crossed our path was shot down. Our second British star who served during World War II is James David Graham Niven, born March 1, 1910. His upper-middle-class family lived in central London. Tragically, 5 years later, his father was killed during the Gallipoli campaign during World War I. 2 years later, his mother remarried and David was sent to boarding school, an experience he later said included bullying, isolation, and abuse. He attended Heatherdown Preparatory School and Stowe School before being admitted to Sandhurst, the Royal Military College. After graduation, he was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Highland Life Infantry. He served for 2 years in Malta and then Dover. In 1933, he was promoted to first lieutenant, but felt there was little room for advancement in the peacetime army. One source indicates that after a lengthy lecture on machine guns, he came to the decision to resign his commission, and whether by intent or simply because of his own cheekiness, at the end of the lecture, when the major general giving the talk asked if anyone had any questions, David asked the man, "Could you please tell me the time, sir? I have to catch a plane." He was placed under close arrest for insubordination. However, the officer who was guarding him helped him escape through a window. David made his way to a ship where on the crossing to America he sent a telegram resigning his commission. In New York, he got a job in whiskey sales, where reportedly he did not do well, then moved in horse rodeo promotion of all things. He moved on to Bermuda and then Cuba before finally arriving in Hollywood in 1934, where he presented himself in Central Casting. However, he was turned away because he needed a work permit to live and work in the United States. The process involved leaving the country and re-entering with his birth certificate. While waiting, he went to Mexico, where reportedly he worked as a gunman, cleaning and polishing rifles of visiting American hunters. Finally, receiving his resident alien visa, he returned to Central Casting, where he was hired as Anglo-Saxon Type number 2008. He appeared in several films that year and into 1936, but it was his role in the 1935 movie Mutiny on the Bounty that caught the attention of MGM's Samuel Goldwyn, who offered him a contract. He did quite well, eventually moving into larger roles in movies such as The Dawn Patrol, Wuthering Heights, Bachelor Mother, and Eternally Yours. In 1939, he finally landed the lead in Raffles, a crime comedy in which he starred as a gentleman safecracker. Then, Britain declared war with Germany, and David went home the very next day and rejoined the British Army. He was recommissioned as a lieutenant in the Rifle Brigade, also known as the Prince Consort's Own, and assigned to a motor training battalion. However, in search of more excitement, he transferred to the Commandos, where he was given command of the A Squadron GHQ Liaison Regiment, better known as Phantom. In August 1941, he was promoted to War Substantive Captain. Phantom served all over Europe, including Operation Market Garden and D-Day, where they landed with the first wave of airborne troops and set about reporting intelligence of the location of Allied and German forces. They also traveled with the U.S. 1st Infantry Division as it moved toward the Rhine. In addition to his combat service, he worked with the Film and Photographic Unit, where he was part of an operation that used an actor to impersonate General Montgomery, as well as acting in 2 films aimed at boosting British morale. Leslie Howard's The First and the Few, and The Way Ahead, written by Peter Ustinov. Throughout the war, David worked with the BBC and Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Forces to create Chafe's military radio efforts to provide entertainment for the troops. In March 1944, he was promoted to War Substantive Major and ended the war as a lieutenant colonel. After returning to the U.S., he received the Legion of Merit. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. If you'd like to learn even more history, please stop by my blog, found on my website at www.lindashentonmatchett.com, and please consider subscribing to my YouTube and Spotify channels, Moments in History, to see and hear new episodes that generally release on the 2nd and 4th Fridays of each month. Click on the bell icon in YouTube to be notified of new episodes. Thanks for watching, and have a great rest of your day.